Hello everyone and welcome to day 3 of the Anniversary 10 buff breakdowns. Today we have buffs for a 4-star Lancer and a 1-star Berserker, and my predictions were more or less spot on. My original biased guess for Lancer was Lee because, I love the dude and I really wanted to see him buff, but I did also suggest that Parvati would be a very good recipient for a buff as she has 0 buffs, and that's what they did. She got the 4-star Lancer buff in a skill buff, and according to my prediction as well, the 1-star Berserker buff went to Asterios, also a skill buff. So let's start talking about Parvati and see what is different. So it's a buff to her 3rd skill. So previously on a 5-turn cooldown, it's a targeted skill. So whenever you wanted to use the skill, she herself had to pay 10% MP gauge. This was always deduced from her. So no matter what, you have to pay that 10%. And then you target one ally who gets 20% MP gauge and also gets healed for 3000. So if you could afford it for herself, if you had that 10% at least, you could basically get a net 10% on her if you target her, or otherwise someone can get a net 20% with the heal on top. Pretty weak skill, not gonna lie. The cooldown isn't very long, but it was fairly unimpressive, just a very weak skill in general. So I'm not surprised they decided to buff this. So let's see what they did. So now the same 5-turn cooldown. First of all, the demerit is gone. There is no longer any cost. She does not have to pay gauge anymore. That's great. It's still a targeted skill, but now instead of 20%, target gets 30% gauge. They still get the same 3k heal as well. But now also a second new line is that the target gets 20% MP damage for 3 turns. So now on a 5-turn cooldown, this skill is a much nicer looking skill. First of all, not having to pay that 10% is nice, and upgrading the battery from 20 to 30 is a very nice get, because 30% is so much nicer than 20% on batteries, as it works better with a pen 2 and better with 50% starting gauge CEs, considering how many AoE 20% batteries there are in the game compared to AoE 30%ers. The heal is still a whatever. It's kind of cool to have, but it's not that big of a deal, I want to say. But hey, that MP damage, 20%, is not bad, especially if you want to use the skill on herself now, because with this, she now has access to MP damage, she has access to an attack up, and she has access to quick up on her kit. So she basically has the basic non-niche trifecta of damaging buffs to make her damage better. So while she doesn't have an MP buff, it's still nice that she has these mixed buffs in her own kit. So she can do some decent damage now regardless. And this should also obviously improve her looping as well, because the battery is just way easier to use now. So that's great. Not sure if her comp will be improved in any way. Maybe it's just a damage upgrade and a more comfortable refund scenario, but I'll have to see afterwards. So on the Lancer tier lists this year, we had her on a flat B, and I think with this, I think I can move her into B+, but maybe that's still a bit fast of me, I don't know. I feel like this buff, honestly, is the weakest one so far. It is a good buff on a skill that needed a buff, but I feel like of all the buffs we've seen so far, it is the least impactful one, despite not still being a bad one. Now then, next on the chopping block, we have the fluffy boy himself. So let's see what he got. Buff to his 2nd skill. So previously on a 5-turn cooldown, he had a 100% resistance against offensive debuffs for 3 turns on use, and 40% defense up for 3 turns. Unfortunately, he's still a 1-star Berserker, so yes, 40% defense is a lot on a good uptime, but chances are he still dies to 1 crit regardless, so it was always kind of whatever. If you wanted to DPS with him, having that offensive debuff resistance is kind of cool, I guess, because again, it's on a good uptime, but it was not a very strong skill on him by any means. So let's see what's different now. On the same 5-turn cooldown, all the pre-existing effects are the same, nothing changed. The resistance is the same, the defense is the same, but we do have 3 new lines. So first of all allies that are chaotic alignment get 30% buster up for 3 turns, and all allies that are demonic alignment also get another 30% buster up for 3 turns, totaling up to a potential of 60% AoE buster up, okay? And on top of that, the third new line gives 20 stars on use of this skill. So a cool little star bomb on top. Well, obviously now on a 5-turn cooldown, this skill is pretty busted. And again, much like the skill buff that Media got, if this was on any other servant, well, maybe not any other, but a lot of other servants, this skill would be absolutely broken, top tier, just potentially game breaking. But because it's on Asterios, it's kind of fair. Now, slightly unfortunately here, I believe he is chaotic in alignment, so he gets to enjoy this 30% from the first effect, but I believe he's actually not demonic, unfortunately. I think he only has the demonic beast trait, which is different from the demonic trait, so he actually does not get 60% buster up himself from his own skill. Yes, it would be a lot, but I feel like for a 1-star it would be kind of fair, so that is a slight unfortunate thing there. Now, they're kind of trying to make him more like a support again with this, but I still have one problem with him in that his MP, which is a support one, is way too hard to access. You're never going to get there with his own face cards, forget about it, and he has 0 batteries. So that's a problem still. That when I was suggesting a buff yesterday, I was hoping to see at least some kind of a self-battery, like a 30% or at least or something, because this MP, it's not the best MP out there, but it is nice to have. So if you're going to bring him as a support, you'd ideally want to use the MP as well. And this is now his only support skill. His other 2 skills do nothing for the allies. In fact, the third skill would be a demerit for your allies because he would steal your stars. So it's like a weird hybrid of them trying to make himself a better DPS and a support at the same time. But I don't think he's a legit DPS even with this. Maybe if he got that 60% buster, then with a great copy you could have the argument, but I don't know. The stars obviously do have some synergy with this absorb on the third skill, because otherwise he's never going to be able to crit because he's a berserker. So he does need that absorb on top. I don't know, man. I still feel like for people that have a normal copy of him, DPSing is still out of the question, but 60% buster, while there probably aren't that many servants who fill both the chaotic and demonic needs to get the 60%, it's still 60% buster up okay with that star bomb on top. And if you happen to maybe run like a K-scope on him or something to get that MP easier, you could actually get quite a bit of bonus damage from this guy for your DPS. And this being on skill 2 means that I believe you can run is it a level 20 copy of Asterios? You can run a very vulnerable esports copy of this guy to get him killed off easily if that's what you also want. So esports value might just be there, but otherwise I don't think it's that crazy of a buff. Maybe I'm missing something here, but do let me know in the comments if I'm snobbing this buff here. So on the tier list, we had him on a very unfortunate D tier, and with this, I think he should at least be a C tier, potentially. Yeah, but again, maybe I'm snobbing him here. I just don't see it really yet. There's so many nice support options, even for the budget side nowadays, that it would be hard to slot him in. Not to mention, again, you need the double condition filled to get the most out of his supporting here anyway, which does leave him in a pretty niche spot regardless. Now for day 4, we will have buffs for a 4-star rider and a 1-star assassin. First of all, the 1-star assassin is 100% Kojiro. 1, they clearly have been buffing a lot of Stay Night servants, so he would fill that quota for day 4. And 2, the only other 1-star assassin is Charlotte, who actually got a buff last anniversary, so I highly doubt they would buff the same character on back-to-back anniversaries. So it's basically fully confirmed that it's going to be a Kojiro buff, which would, if it's a buff to his dodge, it means he's now fully buffed, all his skills and MP. So there you go. Look forward to that, I guess. Now, the 4-star rider, there's some options. Not as many as the 4-star lancer, in my opinion. But my guess and hope is that it will be Astolfo, because he has 2 absolutely terrible skills that are so bad they should not exist in 2025, especially in a gold servant. So I really hope they start fixing Astolfo more. So there's my prediction for day 4. Alright, day 3 is wrapped up. I have to say, this day in terms of the buff, I think it's the most underwhelming, but that's still not the fairest statement because day 1 and 2 had some really big buffs in there. I even kind of maybe even snobbed the Ishtar buff a little bit. I did mention how I can see the potential of the card lock, but yeah, it really is a big buff to Ishtar, really, and maybe she should even be higher on the tier list. We'll see once the next rotation rolls around again, but yeah, day 3 so far, maybe the least impressive to me. If you enjoyed this video, do me a solid and press the thumbs up button on this, it really helps out. And do subscribe for more, not to miss out on future videos, because we still have daily buffs on the way. And also today, we got the launch of the extra class grand duels. You can now grant some extra stuffs, and I might just put out a video of that later today as well, because I will be streaming it today as well. If you're watching this video when it comes out, we'll be live in like 2 hours or so. So come say hi. Shout out to my patrons on the screen right now, and Suit for being a big YouTube tier member supporter. And otherwise, have a great rest of the day, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.